boy, this one doesn't seem good. We got brand new reports about Sony and Marvel being at major odds, like they're fighting, they're beefing hardcore when it comes to Spider-Man 4. This doesn't seem good, but I think I understand what's really going on here. Frankly, Spider-Man 4 is a huge deal for Marvel Studios. It's a huge deal for Sony. So we got to break down these new reports, but I also want to kind of explain what I think is really going on. So you may recall that recently we've had new reports that Toby and Andrew are being considered for Spider-Man 4. And that shocked a lot of people because all of the rumors leading up till that report came out suggested that the movie was going to be street level. You're going to see Tom Holland Spider-Man in his classic costume being the friendly neighborhood spider. But the report from a couple of weeks ago said that Sony wants multiversal elements. Sony actually really wants to bring Toby and Andrew back for Spider-Man 4. Of course, when that happened, the fan base was really divided. There are some people that thought, yeah, Spider-Man, Spider-Boys, multiverse, that sounds great. Other people were really frustrated. They just want Tom Holland to be Spider-Man. They want him hanging out with Daredevil, fighting against Kingpin, classic Spider-Man stuff. Well, following that initial report, a lot of insiders started to report that that new report is not real. What? Essentially, a lot of people were suggesting that Spider-Man 4 was going to be that street level thing that everybody thought it was going to be. So everybody downplays the multiversal elements. They say, yeah, Sony and Marvel kind of at odds about this, but you're gonna get a street level Spider-Man and maybe it'll set up some crazy multiversal elements at the end of the film, maybe even in a post-credit scene. Well, new reports seem to suggest that the reports after the initial reports that said the initial reports were wrong are wrong.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
So, insider Daniel RPK recently shared on his Patreon that they're still working on the script for Spider-Man 4. And he went on to clarify in different comments that Sony and Marvel are still trying to figure out whether or not this movie should be street level or should be multiversal. The actual current plan is just to have the movie come out before Avengers 5 and be a direct tie-in to Avengers 5 and Avengers 6. Now look, we've been covering this for months and months and months at this point. And the truth of the matter is that Sony and Marvel must work together, not only because Spider-Man is still owned by Sony, at least as far as the license for live action, but because Feige needs Tom Holland Spider-Man to be the lead of the next two Avengers movies. Like, Tom Holland Spider-Man is a big freaking deal for Marvel, and Feige therefore kind of needs to work with Sony. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Let's get into this next report, because this report that said that they still haven't figured out the script, yeah, that report was followed up by Can We Get Some Toes, who said this: Sony is trying to make Marvel Studios rush Spider-Man 4 and make it ready for 2025. But since 2025 is already so crowded, Marvel wants to take time and release it in 2026. And Toast went on to say that Kevin Feige is stretched way too thin. Like, there's no way Kevin Feige is going to be able to fix all the stuff he's fixing and turn around and do Spider-Man 4 for 2025. So basically, if you're following along at home, there were a lot of rumors after Spider-Man No Way Home that suggested Spider-Man 4 was going to be street level. It was going to be grounded. But then some other rumors and rumblings started happening out there suggesting that multiversal elements would be in Spider-Man 4. Apparently, that's not only real, they don't even have the script completed. There's major friction between Sony and Marvel about this story. And on top of that, Sony wants the movie out in 2025. They don't want to hear anything about how Feige's too busy or he's got all these other things going on. And so what we have going on here is a big old cluster of a situation that once again puts the destiny of Tom Holland's Spider-Man in jeopardy. So basically, guys, this is the same old story with Sony and Marvel, but I think it's even more interesting with this particular movie in this particular moment. Both Sony and Marvel are desperate for hits. Like, I would argue Marvel's doing better than Sony. I mean, you know, you can look at Captain Marvel vs. Madam Web, but both of those movies are bombs for the studio, really embarrassing performances, and just show that there's a disconnect between potential audiences and the products that they're putting out. And on the one hand, it's like, yeah, Sony really bad. Sony gonna Sony. What are they even doing with all their characters? This this is just not working. And I think Madam Web was such a hilarious example of how out of touch and dumb the studio execs over at Sony are. Like, this is one of the most clowned on movies we've ever seen, a true embarrassment for everybody involved. And so, yes, Sony bad, but I think Sony also right.
What did he say?
Like, we can't deny that one of the biggest problems currently happening with Marvel is this super bloated release schedule that makes the distance between cool things way too long. Like, it's been too long since we've seen Shang-Chi. It's been way too long since we've seen Sam Wilson as Captain America. We've seen more of Peggy Carter as Captain America than Sam Wilson. We're finally starting to see the X-Men after the Fox acquisition 6 years ago. Now, I believe that Kevin Feige is stretched too thin right now, but one of the reasons he's stretched too thin is because he's so hell-bent on fixing all of these different projects. Like, he keeps reshooting and changing shows and movies to make them better. That's like the story of Marvel for the past couple of years. And so from Sony's perspective, like, I totally get it. The Spider-Man character is the most popular comic book character of all time. Look at what No Way Home made without China. It's absurd. So I think Sony's absolutely in the right to look at what Marvel is doing and be like, dude, guys, like, first of all, what the hell do you mean you want to just make it street level? You're doing Secret Wars. We're doing Across the Spider-Verse. We just did Spider-Man No Way Home and made all that money, and you want to do like the opposite? That doesn't really make sense. Even Kevin Feige is considering putting Deadpool and Wolverine into Avengers 5 now because he recognizes how dope and how good it is. And that's great because what's working should be double and triple down on. But why are they not doing that with Spider-Man? Clearly, what they have going on with Spider-Man is working. And so I get it from Sony's perspective. Like, I would be frustrated too. And I would look at Feige, like, if he literally came to me and he was like, well, I can't get Spider-Man 4 out in 2025 because I'm fixing the Thunderbolts movie, the Blade movie, and this Captain America 4 movie that we announced 6+ years ago. I would be like, well, goddamn, Kevin, maybe get your house in order so that we can keep making Spider-Man movies together. Seems like that would solve your problems. Seems like that would solve our problems. What do you think, Kevin? What do you think? Of course, I also get it from Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios' perspective. Look at what Sony is doing. They're clearly not that interested in the integrity of the brand of Spider-Man, of that universe, of Marvel in general. They don't seem to be capable of making these movies in a way that fans really like, other than Venom, and even that seems to have diminishing returns. And so I also get it from Marvel's perspective. So essentially, you just got a really hairy, really difficult, really complicated situation. And to make matters worse, this movie is important for everybody involved. Like, this movie is supposed to set up Tom Holland being in Secret Wars, but on top of that, it's supposed to set up Tom Hardy's Venom for being in Secret Wars as well. Like, we're not 100% sure how all that's working, but the evidence is there in the post-credit scenes and the Venom symbiote being left behind. And I've shared in a recent video that there are plans for Tom Holland Spider-Man to get that symbiote suit, the one that was left behind by Venom, and that's to ensure that not only will Tom Holland Spider-Man have the Venom suit in Secret Wars, but it will also allow Tom Hardy's Venom to be able to find him in the multiverse. So this is like a really important movie. It's a really important partnership. And of course, it's made very complicated because Sony has final say here. Like, Feige can negotiate, 100% he can negotiate, but the truth of the matter is that Sony is holding all the cards here. Feige doesn't have a lot of leverage, and I think Sony would be happy to just let him do his thing without Tom Holland. They've sort of proven that they're willing to pull that cord, and that would be very scary for Feige because, again, he is really depending on Tom Holland Spider-Man to be a big draw and to be a big part of what makes the next two Avengers movies successful. To me, the worst case scenario here is Sony really forcing Marvel's hand and us getting a lackluster product. So hopefully some kind of collaboration can happen. And I'll tell you one thing, I'm absolutely certain we're gonna get more updates about this. And I think this movie might change radically, guys. I kind of feel like it might have to go the route of multiverse. It might have to go the route of being big, because I don't think Kevin can afford to piss off Sony and not be assured that he has Tom Holland in the next 2 Avengers movies. They have to figure this out. And unfortunately, I don't think Feige has leverage here. He has even less leverage than he did back in 2019 and 2020, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe isn't even performing the same way. But there you have it. There's the updates, my thoughts on it. Would love to know what you think in the comments section below. And as I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.